Okay, what's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense. I've been told I should stop smiling so much, so y'all like the video as the intro. I can't do it. Like the video as the intro plays. We got a lot to get into.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. That's all. 1 and 1 got to equal 2.
Well, it makes no sense to me.
Big moves. Surfer. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dream. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dream. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
She lied, and I should have known better when I seen her hair.
Ms. Reese, I got to feel you were somewhat worried.
Okay, guys. So we have a couple options here. We got 2 stories to do today. The first one I thought would be Diddy, and then we can move on to the I know that my mother is my sister. Which one do you guys want to do first? And yes, I have been hearing you guys. There will be some changes made to the channel. I will always still do lives, but some people want me to clip out some of the content and do shorter form content. So I hear you guys. I see you, Sodell, in the chat. It's good seeing you. Y'all want to do Diddy first? What did Diddy do now? Okay, guys. When I pieced this together, I was like, it makes sense now. A woman came out and alleged that Diddy had done some really nasty things to her from Vibe magazine. Well, guys, Vibe rang a bell because we just saw just recently that Diddy and a woman sued Diddy because Diddy does what Diddy does to everybody, but Vibe was included in the lawsuit. So that's why the bell rang out. So we're going to get into what this woman is alleging Diddy said to her, how you threatened her, and then we're going to look at the actual lawsuit where Vibe is named as a defendant. It says, I knew Diddy for years. What I remember now haunts me. Looking back on my life as a woman in the music industry, I'm unsettled by the inescapable sexism perpetrated by Sean Combs and others. A thing happened between Sean Combs and me. Unlike what he's been accused of over the last 8 months, what occurred between us was not sexual. It was professional, demonstrative of the way dynamic and domineering men moved in our heyday. Combs and I worked together a lot, completed in our way. So often I came out on top. I was mistaken. I had reason to fear for my life. What happened was insidious. It broke my brain. I forgot the worst of it for 27 years. Oh, sorry. Let me show. It was July 1997. In the fading smoke of the murders of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G., I was named editor-in-chief of a music magazine called Vibe. Started by Quincy Jones and Time Inc. in 1992, the magazine chronicled Black music and culture with rigor and beauty, 10 issues a year for an audience that was relentlessly underserved. When I took over, we thought hip-hop might have died with our heroes, and we were determined not only to keep it alive, but also to give it cultural credit it was due. Hip-hop was both in mourning and in marketing meetings. Combs, Biggie's creative partner and label boss, was the personification of this dichotomy. His Bad Boy Records was having a $100 million year, much due to the work of Biggie and Mace, as well as Combs' own debut album, No Way Out. His album did a little something because of the fact that everybody's always going to be on a Diddy album. Outside of like Dirty Money, it's not like Diddy did anything groundbreaking. Me, Ms. Cola, thank you so much for joining the membership. I appreciate you. Let's see. Okay. Which was anchored by the blockbuster Biggie tribute, I'll Be Missing You, again, featuring Faith Evans. Other singles, It's All About the Benjamins and Been Around the World, both with features, functioned as a score for hip-hop megawatt movement. Its commercial evaluation and international expansion, No Way Out, will go on to sell over 7 million copies. So I wanted Combs on the cover of Vibe's December 1997, 1998 double issue. And I wanted him to wear white. And I wanted him to wear white feathered wings. My point of reference was the poster for Heaven Can Wait, a 1978 film starring Warren Beatty. The movie is about a quarterback who dies before his time and is reincarnated as an idiocentric and callous billionaire. Vibe's working cover line for Sasha Jenkins' article was The Good, the Bad, and the Puffy. Not so elegant, but it would work if the fashion director, Emil Wilkman, and I got Combs, then known as Puffy or Puff Daddy, to put on the angel wings. And if we also... Angel wings on Puffy. Oh, yeah, definitely like the video, guys. And if we also got a shot that looked even slightly mischievous, we could do a split run for the cover. One with the heavily signifiers and other with hellish ones. Possible cover line, bad boy, what you gonna do? The photo shoot took place in Manhattan in September 1997. I had probably said hello to Combs at an event, but the shoot was the first time I was around him for an extended period. Either it was a crowded set or I just felt claustrophobic. I wore yoga pants and an oversized t-shirt. I remember wanting to minimize my bust more than my bra was ready doing. I remember cajoling, and I remember knowing that as a black woman, I was in a no-win situation. To fail was to live up to my male boss's low expectations, and to succeed was to invite their resentment. That day, Combs was begrudgingly compliant. We finally got him to shrug on the white feathered wings. He cooperated up to a point, but eventually his controlling ways took a hold. A few days later, Combs wanted to see the Vibe covers before they went to press. It wasn't our policy to show covers before publication. So after I told him no, we heard that he planned to come to our office and force us to show him what we'd chosen, and to make us choose something else if he didn't like what he saw. I'm sure I was concerned, but my priority was getting the issue to the printer on time. There was vague talk about Combs beating a woman at the bad boy offices. In 1996, he was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening a New York Post photographer with a gun. Combs was also busy denying that he had something with the 1996 killing of Tupac Shakur. In September 1997, Combs had a reputation for shaking tables. I'd reconciled the rumors with his relevance, and the math was ugly and simple. I had to have him on the cover. So a few Vibe employees put together a plan to keep me safe if he chose to visit that day. This is already crazy. This is already crazy. You have editor-in-chief is fearful of somebody coming to the office. So you're advising, like, mind-blowing. I was in my office on the third floor of a building on the boring corner of Lexington and 32nd Street. A few doors away from me, Vibe's research chief, Ava Shin, was with the managing editor. Jesse Washington in his office with her back to the open door. Jesse looked over her head as if someone was behind her. Jesse stood up. He's 6'4", and Ava saw him trying to make himself even taller, as though he were squaring off. So she turned towards the door and saw Combs with two security dudes. Combs asked, "Where's Danielle?" The receptionist had already notified other colleagues that Combs had walked into the editorial bullpen. As he and his two associates looked into various cubicles and offices, my coworker eased into mine. Paper proofs of the cover story and both the angelic and devilish covers were on my desk. I grabbed the unruly stack of 11 by 17s. Staff members shuttled me from office to the spiral staircase and the alternate second floor elevator bank. I made it to the 32nd between Lexington and 3rd Avenue, clutching the proofs. Jesse eventually came down. He took the pages from me, flagged a taxi, and put me in a yellow cab home to Brooklyn. I mean, even with the angel wings, he's still looking devilish. Even with the angel wings, I'm not seeing anything angelic about this. In fact, he looks more devilish with angel wings. The next day, I was right back in the office. My assistant received a call on my line. It's Puffy, she said. I got my mind right and picked up. He was still on message. He wanted to see the covers. I was still on message. It's not what we do. It was then that Combs told me, as I've retold hundreds of times over the years, that he would see me dead in the trunk of a car. Not missing a beat, I told him he needed to take that threat back. Take it back, I said, sounding as if I were 10. Take what back? Then with a vile laugh, F you, I guess it says expletive, but I'm pretty sure it means F you. Take it back now, I said, or I'm calling my lawyer and you're going to jail. He said, I know where you are right now, right on Lexington. Damn. I called my personal lawyer. I do not know what he said to Combs. Within 2 hours, Combs faxed over an apology. One of my male bosses was furious that I had not involved him. Combs had called him to complain that I sicked my lawyer on him, as if I somehow wasn't playing fair. Now, her life was threatened.
To show y'all how we have fun and stay out of jail too, and make money.
Soon after the menacing encounters, I walked into work one morning to find my staff members tamping down panic. A couple of servers, which back then were as big as end tables and twice as heavy, had been stolen, and the scuttlebutt was that the theft was an inside job. Who would steal Vibe servers? That someone on Vibe's publishing side had let in movers from Bad Boy. It was almost time to send pages to the printer, and the whole issue was saved on those servers. All the editorial changes, all the pages with the advertising adjacencies that had been paid for by clients, gone. In response to fact-checking inquiries, Combs, via representatives, would not comment on the record for this piece. I've always remembered the threatening call. I mentioned it in my memoir, Shine Bright, though I got wrong the reason for his fixation, but I repressed the rest. The only reason I know the details is a chance meeting I had at the McDowell's Artist Residency this May. Ava Chin, who is now an author and a professor of creative nonfiction, was also there. I hadn't seen her in decades. Ava asked me early in the residency if I was ever going to write about Vibe. I said yes, and she said good. Then just before I left, I mentioned that I was writing about Combs and told her that he said he would see me dead in the trunk of a car. In the previous months, accusations of his serial abuse of women, which had been rumored for years, had surfaced, and I was thinking about my professional relationship with him. I asked her if she remembered the tense situation. Over her turkey club, Ava said, I absolutely remember. She was privy to the phone conversation, but she knew other details. She told me my own story. I don't remember being shuttled from office to office. Shuttled is Ava's word. Let's see. Diddy threatened. Who was the lady that worked at Hot 97? Let's see. The lady who made she made that song that got her fired. She made the song about the tsunami. Miss Jones, right? Didn't Diddy also threaten Miss Jones in the same way? It was Miss Jones. Radio personality Miss Jones claims to have Diddy threatening to put her in a trunk on tape. Found a hero in Little Kim as she stood by her side. So it's right in his wheelhouse. The entire memory had been removed from my mind, like the servers that were stolen from the offices. I wanted someone else to validate the story. So from the rear garden of McDowell's main building, I FaceTimed Jesse Washington, who is now a journalist and filmmaker. When he confirmed Ava's recounting, I stared at the long green meadow processing. The fact that two people had to tell me a story about myself was mortifying. It made me question my own truths. I was flooded with questions about my own experiences of vulnerability, victimhood, ambition, fear, and regret, and what all of it means with regard to my professional and personal legacies. Considering this nauseating image of myself running and hiding from Combs, of people at work protecting me, made me confront other things I possibly repressed about that feral and fantastic time in my life. To be a powerful woman in the music industry and in the hip hop media specifically exacted a toll I've resisted reckoning with. It's so much easier, frankly, to tell other people's stories. As a journalist, I have learned to get people to recall stuff that they would rather forget or keep to themselves. It's an art tart with betrayal, but it's mine. And so here we are. I was thinking in that garden, now I have to remember. I don't recollect exactly how Combs and I left things after he threatened me in 97, but it's not as though we could stop dealing with each other. Hip hop, inching its way toward world domination, needed us to keep contributing to in our respective waves. On my end, documenting its trajectory, and on his, branching out into television, liquor, and more. We interacted when necessary. Sometimes an exchange was just us smiling on cameras. Now, guys, this is not new. We have heard several of the victims say because they worked in that field, there was no way that they could not get away from Diddy. Let's see. Two photos of us stand out to me, mark places where our journeys intersected. There's one from 1990s in which my hair is this natural brown and I have a navy turquoise zip hoodie. I'm awkward in this embrace, still getting used to being in the limelight. The other's from October 2006. I'm 41 with my new grays cinnamon coated by the celebrity colorist Rita Hazen. My teeth have been Invisaligned and my gaze is sure. We're posing before a party celebrating both the release of his album, Press Play, and the new issue of Vibe magazine. Combs is the cover star. I wrote the celebratory article. Now, I did like Press Play. I'm mad that Diddy, I'll get into that on Instagram. But on there, there's a song with Christina Aguilera, and it's the best Christina Aguilera has ever looked. And Diddy forced her to dress this certain way and look this certain way. And I looked up that song the other day because I was going to put some of that on Instagram. And everybody in the comments was saying, best Christina looked, best Christina ever looked, best Christina ever looked. And I'm like, damn, the song was good. There's a lot of good features on that album. It's just too bad I can't listen to it anymore. In our 2006 photo, Combs is in a black tuxedo, a black shirt, and sunglasses. In some of the shots from that night, I look discordantly joyful. In others, I look like I would rather Combs not hold me so closely or kiss me on the neck. Yeah, you never know what you would get. I was a newlywed and also a professional. I resigned from Vibe in 1999, and when I was rehired in 2006, Combs was among the first people I called to appear on a cover. I did so because I knew the cover would both succeed at the newsstand and reaffirm to my new venture capitalist chieftains that I still had my chops and that my industry relationships were flawless. So in that series of photos, Combs and I are playing the roles of mogul and editor-in-chief, and we're nailing it. This is just a way to distance herself. But why he feels the need to kiss these people? She looks good. I've been thinking a lot about those two photos lately, and all the photos of me and Combs together. It's bizarre to see myself smiling in pictures with someone accused of such heinous crimes. In November 2023, Cassandra Ventura, who performs as Cassie, sued Combs. We know this. She just kind of goes into what's going on with Diddy right now. Last December, Combs took to Instagram writing, I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, my truth. These things we already know. In the past, I attended Combs' large music industry parties in New York City, the Hamptons, Miami. To be clear, he has never acted in any way sexually inappropriate towards me. I have slammed shots with him at Rockefeller Center and at the Rock Nation brunch. Combs is a genius. He is also sincere in his ambition and his malevolence. In the entertainment industry, none of this makes him unusual. It's shameful and whack for me not to have known fully. I consider myself a hard-hitting journalist. At the time, I broke stories about predation in the music business. In 1994, when I was the music editor at Vibe, the investigative team that I was a part of figured out that the 27-year-old R. Kelly had married the 15-year-old Aaliyah. Now that's that's an accolade. We got our hands on the license and the photographer Dana Lixenberg, and I chased Kelly to a tour stop in Philadelphia. I wrote the cover story that verified what had only been wild rumors about his sex crimes. I think this was cool when I got to this part because we keep hearing people say, well, how did you not know? Or you heard whispers and you kept working with him. Yes, Sassy Girl, he did have to sell his house. Or he is selling his house, but it's highly inflated, so it won't sell for that price. it's dope to hear somebody say, I was around, I don't know how I didn't see. It's easy to think of the 90s and the aughts as a strange time. I could have in that space of a day be working on an R. Kelly article, editing a piece about hip-hop feminism, and then be at one of Combs or most anyone's shindigs, not knowing what was happening in the very next room. All of this has been normal since the dawn of pop. To report sexual misconduct, whether it's to attorneys or law enforcement or even your supervisor, often meant losing your job, being ostracized, or being that girl that didn't get it or didn't know how to fend for herself. The music industry was and it is a mean place. Journalists were being threatened at recording studios and stomped in their own offices. DJ Vlad. I wonder if that's what she's talking about. In the spring of 1999, the music executive Steve Stout claimed that Combs and two bodyguards attacked him over the ways Combs was depicted in the music video. He said that Combs punched him in the face and hit him in the head with a telephone and champagne bottle. Stout later asked the court to drop the charges after Combs publicly apologizes and pleaded guilty to harassment. He also got a settlement. Not only were many rank and file workers in our business, men and women alike, jittery about our physical and emotional safety, we were enlisted to boost the egos of the very artists and executives who felt entitled to violate us. Think of all the lawsuits that L.A. Reid has. Think of all the lawsuits that Russell Simmons has around powerful women, and the first thing you try to do is take them down a notch by sexually violating them. Let's see. We became used to playing the game. We were conditioned to look the other way, or when looking at something straight ahead, to not see it for what it was, or even to unsee it. In our 2006 interview, Combs said, "Somebody gave me multiple choices early on. Having a smooth working relationship, having a personal life, or being in the music industry. I chose the music industry." Same, Puff, same. Too many of us did. We didn't have a thought of ourselves as ambivalent or numb then, but that's what we were. A lot of us women wanted our fair shot at winning. There were dues to pay. We paid dearly. There's no party cooler and more insanely fun than a music industry party, right? The trade salts and the sugars its women and devours them like hors d'oeuvres. Our bodies are not our own. Breasts and asses are meant to be squeezed anonymously from behind at crowded bars where real and difficult work is being celebrated. Some girls survive, dried out as a skeleton or just tough. Some women, via luck or brilliance of exfoliation, excel. Some marry in, Kimura. Others disappear, Kimura's friend. The business, moving at its seductive breakneck pace, spits them out. Many female executives and top-level creative types started as standout students, interns, administrators, and receptionists. We communicated in the posh ladies' rooms and hip-hop restaurants and nods and fleeting eye contact in the office building. One intern said she was hesitant to speak to me because the guys downstairs told me you were such a bitch and that you hate pretty girls. Dennis Baker, thank you so much for the super chat. We got over 1,500 in the room. Definitely hit that like button. Sassy Girl, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I appreciate you. Let's see. It was weird and I was nice, as I could be when I could be. Ambition in an industry that pretends scarcity must make monsters of women who wanted to be what was back then called big willies, a euphemism for large penises. Vibe honchos organized big willie panel discussions at industry seminars. This when female artists and executives were working twice as hard for less money and only whispered credit. Now, here's the thing. So she's known as a bitch. She is the buck stops with her at Vibe. But Diddy's not known as a bitch. Russell's not known as a bitch. And if you really look at that statement, they're trying to pit this other woman who's more of like an underling against the powerful black woman. So even if they didn't even give her a chance to really kind of determine if she liked her boss, it was, we're going to tell you that she's a bitch early on. But we'll cower to the Russells, we'll cower to the Quincy Jones who actually owned the magazine initially. But she's a bitch. Sagittarius said, I just got done listening to the song Tell Me. Damn, that's a good song. That's the one I was talking about. It was a good song. Christina, of course, always is going to do well in the vocal department. And she looked great. Christina Aguilera looked good. And now it's done. Take Kim Porter, for example. Porter, who died in 2008, was a model and sometimes actor. Combs is the father of 3 of her children. On a late autumn afternoon in 1998, I visited Porter at the Park Avenue apartment in a 12-story limestone building. Combs was in the process of buying, that she shared with her 2 little boys. Combs was not there that afternoon. I rarely ended up in Porter's presence, but when I did, her personality seemed a mix of femme fatale and mean girl. Damn. The mean girl felt fueled by a broken heart. Well, I mean, you got to think. Kim left Quincy because Albie Shore. Kim left Albie Shore because Albie Shore cheated on her. The cheating she could deal with. Having a baby on her, she couldn't. So then she gets with Diddy, and Diddy does the same thing. So she probably is guarded. She's probably angry. Let's see. Porter and I had 2 other friends eventually went to a buzzy restaurant for cocktails. Sometime later, Combs came in. He knew all of us at the table but didn't acknowledge us. He demanded that Porter hand over her baguette purse and turned it upside down. Her belongings splattered on the table among lime eighths and ice crumbs. What is a lime eighth? Oh, like just a lime cut into eighths. So this lady is a writer, a good writer. But it's probably just me. She's painting a really good picture. He demanded that Porter hand over her baguette purse and turned it upside down. Her belongings splattered on the table among lime eighths and ice crumbs. I've never heard of an ice crumb, though. He snatched up her bank cards to the beat of, "You ain't got no business in here. You need to be at home with these kids." Combs yelled something like that. "Get home as best you can." From the sidewalk, I saw Porter being hustled into a limo in which we arrived. One of her friends, more tired than terrified, shot me a look. "You good?" And they were gone. He really is like a trash individual. Oh, so that's her right there with the Louis Vuitton bag. A woman deserves to be nurtured and taken care of, Combs told me 8 years later for our 2006 cover story. Kim taught me that. She taught me how to love. Maybe he learned that. Maybe he didn't. To be honest, pressing him didn't occur to me. I had just laid off almost a dozen good people. This was the beginning of the end of print magazine, and another one of those times when I did what I had to do to keep the magazine alive. It was my job. You got to think 2007 is really when social media started to take off, like MySpace. Crazy, right? Doesn't even exist. And then a few years later, we had blogs, we had Twitter, we had Instagram. People no longer needed to buy like actual publications. It was also my job to hear what women were saying, even when they weren't quite saying it. On August 29th, 2015, I was in Culver City, California at Epic Records. Now, hold on. She said a little bit earlier that she should have seen some things, but you saw firsthand him coming into an event or a restaurant, dumping her purse out, checking through her belongings, and sending her home. Let's see. It was also my job to hear what women were saying when they weren't quite saying it. On August 29, 2015, I was in Culver City, California at Epic Records' annual celebration of its artists. There was a lot of loud talking and drinking, and I found myself retreating to a cool alcove where the wait staff was being handed platters of tuna in Tong Gang spoons. In 4-inch sandals, Cassie walked over uncharacteristically alone. She and Combs were rumored to have gotten engaged the year before, but there hadn't been no wedding, and I didn't see a ring. She also hadn't released a second album after her smash single, Me and You, went to number 3 on Billboard's Hot 100 in 2006, despite being signed to Bad Boy for almost a decade. When I saw her in Culver City, it was about 6 months before the assault shown in the CNN Intercontinental video. She surprised me when she gracefully squatted so that we were eye to eye. Cassie asked how I was. Me, fine, lady. Fine, how are you? She, how are you doing? Me, doing what? She, like, how are you managing? She placidly awaited an answer, and I felt myself tremble. Maybe she saw me in a fellow industry introvert, someone skilled at the Irish exit. Perhaps she wanted to know how I was still married, at the time for 10 years, to a man in the music and media industries. But what caused the tremble was the feeling that she had heard from mutual friends that I was sexually assaulted a decade before by someone we both knew. Because I was paranoid, and she was still there looking at me, it felt as if she were trying to send me an extrasensory signal. I gave her a generic, "Girl, what? I'm fine." We each wanted to say something. It seemed that neither of us could find the words. After a moment, she rose up on those stilettos as if she were barefoot on a soft lawn. She waved goodbye and walked back towards the fresh air. Contacted through her lawyers, Cassie had no comments. I mean, she was around very powerful people. It could have been anybody in the music industry that sexually assaulted this Vibe editor. There's no safe space for ambitious women, not anywhere, and definitely not in the entertainment business. Men keep it dangerous so they can keep it theirs. Once a media executive bullied me in a bar, despite my protest, made it clear he was going to walk me to my hotel room. It was obvious that he wanted sex. In his pulsing nostril was resentment about the job I had. He had the focused look of a person who believes you have stolen something from him, and that something is actually you. That happened to me in the mid-90s, but it has been going on in pop music since forever. Louis McKay physically and financially abused Billie Holiday. Ike Turner physically and emotionally abused Tina Turner. Ted White beat Aretha Franklin. Jerry Lewis married his 13-year-old cousin, who was then filing for divorce more than a decade later in 1970. Claimed that she had been subject to every type of physical and mental abuse imaginable. Both David Ruffin and James Brown beat Tammy Terrell. The convicted killer Phil Spector locked Ronnie Spector in their home. Miles Davis' marriage to the funk singer Betty Davis reportedly ended because of what she called his violent temper. Donna Summer was abused by her boyfriend, Peter, I can't pronounce that, Mildorfer. Dr. Dre beat the singer Michelle A. and the journalist Dee Barnes. Chris Brown hit Rihanna. More than a dozen women have accused Russell Simmons of a sexual assault, and in some cases, the R word, all of which he denies. He also has denied that he moved to Bali to avoid extradition. L.A. Reid stepped down as the chief executive of Epic Records following a 2017 accusation of sexual harassment by an assistant. A lawsuit later filed last year accuses him of sexual assault and harassment. Tory Lanez shot Megan Thee Stallion. Last month, the producer Diplo was accused of distributing sexual images and videos of women without her consent. His lawyer has cast doubt on the accusation. And then there are the countless women who remain unnamed or choose to be anonymous or decide not to report it all. You guys know whenever people are making fun of Little Kim and her nose, she has said that her boyfriend actually destroyed her nose, and that's why it ended up caving in. Allegedly, all of Diddy's women, starting from before Misa, because allegedly the one he was with in college, he was dragging her out into the quad and beating her in front of people. This isn't like new. I knew the beats of getting beat. I was half raised by an alcoholic father, and I still don't know how to act. A Vibe staff member told me on her return from interviewing a musician that he assaulted her. I tried to comfort her, but didn't say much that helped. So we're back to 97. Some things were recovered. Back in 1997, on the afternoon, the servers were stolen from the Vibe office. It turned out that our art director had the issue on a disc she had taken home. We were able to publish our Angel and Devil covers of Combs. In each, he is looking over the top of dark glasses. In each, he looks as though he would continue winning for a long time. The last time I saw Combs in person was February 2020, at the house in Los Angeles that was raided this March by Homeland Security investigators. I was invited to chat about possibly participating in a docuseries that Combs was creating about his life. I hadn't spoken to him in a while. As it was, Combs was fresh off a star-studded 50th birthday party. I was curious about whether such a big milestone had triggered in him a desire to tell his true stories. My husband and I put in place a plan of texting and pin dropping, so I would never be out of touch. So damn, even after all these years, she still feels that she has to go to these type of events because it's in her job description. But she's still so worried because this man has threatened her life that her husband is dropping pins. There was no way, though, that I wasn't going to go. One, I'm a journalist. I was duty bound. Two, my ego, ambition, and expertise say that it should be me getting the big interviews. Three, there's power and meaning in showing up. If I didn't go, I can't take notes, and I can't have an experience that becomes mine through writing. Guys, let's get into Vibe being sued. Vibe has been accused through this lawsuit from Audra English. Basically, they're saying that Vibe is part of the RICO. It says, on or about Labor Day 2004, plaintiff's picture was taken while in her employment capacity at defendant Combs' White Party in Hamptons. Plaintiff did not know her picture was being taken for or what would be used for, nor was plaintiff's consent sought or given. Plaintiff has never entered into any agreement with defendant to license her likeness, nor was it a term for employment at the White Party. Let's see. Defendant Vibe exploited plaintiff's likeness in the November 2006 magazine where defendant Combs was the cover, and the story was about defendant's white parties, which by this point was a cultural phenomenon. Let's see. Defendants have, without plaintiff's authorization or consent, used plaintiff's likeness for advertising and or other trade purposes without consent and without a license to promote. Let's see. I want to get to the RICO part. Defendants Vibe and PMC are 100% liable for the actions of defendant Combs and by extension, blah, blah, blah. Defendants Vibe and PMC financially benefited from defendant Combs through their partnership with defendant Combs and the brands he owned, listed as defendants above. The collective provided the RICO orchestrators with unfettered access to resources and failed to adequately investigate, supervise, and or monitor how those resources were being used, who was using those resources, and the purpose of those resources. So I was wondering, I was thinking like the Vibe part of this would be a tough one to prove. Like, how is Vibe the issue? But they are saying that Puffy literally had Vibe make him into a cultural phenomenon. His white parties were so closely were so frequently talked about in the magazine that Vibe is now liable for some of this. So we have this lawsuit coming out in early July, and mid-July, the editor of Vibe is saying that she was also, to some degree, a victim of Puffy. Now, you tell me that that is not just a coincidence.
Is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence? I ask you. Is it a coincidence?
Okay, so let's get into this. So I wanted to end with this one because as crazy as this story sounds, I found out that my mom is my sister. It actually has a good ending. So this is the lady. Her name is Trina. The first thing I saw was this, and it was her dancing with her mother. And it says, my mother has been in a state mental institution since the age of 16, only because her father took advantage of her and she became pregnant by her own father. So here I am today fighting for my mother to come home, surprised her for her birthday. I love to make her smile. So there's actually an interview. I'm not going to show you guys the whole interview, but this lady, I'm telling you, you would not believe her journey, her life, 2-time cancer survivor. And it's actually a story. It's one of those things where you hear it, it sounds, tawdry, it sounds crazy, but then you hear her speaking on it and it's her actual story, it's her actual life. So shout out to the Pop Television Network. I will link this whole video. Maybe we can get Audra in to talk to her, but this story it needs to be told.
Like, he wouldn't let nobody touch me. I don't have any bad memories with me and my grandfather at all. So that's the part that hurt me. I feel betrayed that he died and didn't acknowledge, all he did was tell me, he was sorry and that was it. So I had a lot of questions unanswered. So
her grandfather was actually her dad. Her grandpa was actually her dad.
I don't even know And one time I didn't even know who I was. I just knew my name was Trina Thompson on my birth certificate. But coming from a family tree of my background and all the lies they told, I was unsure of who I was.
Okay. So now you found out that you have a mother.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now?
I was ashamed. I was ashamed because one, now I have to have friends to say that my mom is in a mental institution. My grandfather is my dad. I was very embarrassed. As a child growing up, to know that my family even kept secrets and that I just didn't want nobody to know. So it was hard for me to even much go see my mom. I actually told my kids my mom was dead.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how serious it got. My kids didn't know my mom was living until I was about 35.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
DB says we barely touched on the Vibe lawsuit. I actually read the entire lawsuit when it came out, so you could go back to that actual video. I actually touched on it twice because the woman who sued Diddy and Vibe did an interview with Tasha K. So I reviewed that interview and then I read her lawsuit. So you could definitely check that out on one of those two videos.
Let's back up. So how did you find out that your grandfather was your father?
Actually, it was a family member that she wound up she didn't like what was going on. So she actually brought it up to me when I slept at our house. I didn't believe it at first. It was my uncle's wife. She was married in our family. She's deceased now.
Okay.
And she brought it up, and I went and asked my grandmother at first, and she denied it. And then finally, the man that they were saying was my father, he took a DNA, and he wasn't my father. So that was another red flag. And then my mom was wound up having a baby, and blood had to get drawn. And that's how we found out the match was my grandfather with me.
So once that came out, how did the family respond? I mean, they
disowned me? Yeah. Nobody wanted to speak to me.
That is really common. People know that people have messed up. People know that kids are taken advantage of, but they don't want you to tell that your aunt or your uncle actually did something to you because then it's shameful for the family. We see that. I mean, I don't know if it still happens as much today because I feel like people are more inclined to speak up, but 80s, 90s, and definitely below, it was, well, that's family business and don't put it out. Doesn't matter that was absolutely disgusting.
It was a lot. It was a lot I had to take in. Like, I wound up, at that time, was battling thyroid cancer. And that was already eating away my body. And to swallow, holding a secret that long, from 10 to, everybody denying it, literally could have took my life out. And I wound up just speaking on it, and so I can get my own healing. And I wound up having a conversation with my mom, face to face. She wouldn't talk a lot, but she did admit a lot of things that happened to her. So that was real hard, going to face my mom, and letting her tell me, the extra story that happened with her and my grandfather.
So you did go find your mother in the home?
I've been to where she was. It was never no secret. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So talk to us about the toll that took on your body, because I know that you didn't eat for like 14 years, right?
Yeah, I beat the cancer, but it was a depression that took away my mind. Like, literally, I had to go see a counselor, and he was telling me if I keep everything grounded in, I would never heal. So it was at that point that I had to let my story go to heal. And it was either I die with this, not saying anything, or breaking the curse and come out with it. And I chose myself. So I started speaking on it.
She has nothing to be ashamed of. She didn't do anything. She was just born. And you were born in a situation where not only did your grandfather do something that is detrimental to you and your health, and we don't know what happens when you know when those type of mixes occur, but it drove her mother to an institution. None of these women have anything like, both are victims of this dead man. Disgusting.
And then journaling, and I went on a Shekinah show, and that was when I first broadcast what happened. And from then on, the healing started, happening to me. I literally started eating 3 years ago. So I didn't eat in 14 years because of it. Like I had a bad curse on my body. Bad.
So talk to us, how do you not eat for
I had that same question. How do you not eat? Was it like an eating disorder?
14 years?
It was a mind thing. And I can't explain it. Like when you have a bad curse, people don't believe in, curses. It's real. And it was a demonic spirit that was holding, weighing me down. And I think the attack of the enemy thought, if he could take me out, because, literally if I would have stopped eating, I was going to deteriorate and die. Then he couldn't use me to tell this story.
And being that she was battling cancer at the same time, you need all the nutrients that come from food.
But, God used people to come in my life, and here I am eating and, telling this story. And it's not just for me, it's for my mama freedom.
Right. So we're going to talk about that a little later too. So talk to us about what that looks like, going through not eating, depression. You were suicidal, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
It was scary. Like I said, I had 5 kids. At the time, they was young. It was only my oldest son was, I think he was about 20. The rest of my kids were still in a home with me, so they had to really watch me go through panic attacks. I stopped driving. I stopped going to the store. I literally stopped doing everything for myself. My kids literally didn't have a life to watch me. Their mama just lay in a house. They just thought any day now I would die. So 3 years ago, I went through a bad divorce, and I moved to Florida, and that's where I had the suicide thoughts. Like my son, that was my last child in the house, so it was nobody there with me no more. So I literally had to sit in this alone. So once my son went to college, I moved away, and I had time to really sit with myself, to deal with myself, and I couldn't. And I wound up taking 20 pills and putting my kids in a group text message saying, by the time y'all get this message, I won't wake up.
And so your daughter or someone called?
My daughter was the only one who knew where I moved at in Florida, because she helped me move there. So she called the apartment complex and asked them to go and kick in the door because I wasn't responding to her phone calls. And the police did come and revive me there at my home, and then took me to the hospital, and I was on a 72-hour watch in Florida. Yeah.
So what was the turning point?
She talked about curses. Her mom is in an institution, and she ended up in an institution, even if it was just for the 72-hour hold. I do believe that there are curses, but like I said, the story has a happy ending in that she's still alive. She beat cancer twice, and she's actively working to get her mom out of the home, to provide a safe space where her mom feels comfortable to live out the rest of her life. Is basically the only thing you could ask for from somebody who's been through so much.
Point. Like, what made you say enough is enough? What made you say, this is it? This is my moment. What made you say, I'm ready to live again?
I think after the suicidal thought, and I saw how I affected my kids, and if I would have took my life, my mama wouldn't have never been free. So I thought it was selfish of me to just die and bury this. Like my program actually, not at least, but help a lot of people, because we know generations curses is everywhere, but people don't like to face it.
Right.
And I have so many questions asking, how did I overcome it? How did I not eat it for 14 years? So right now, that's what I want in that book, to actually show people the journey that I went through and still going through, and to help somebody else to get through.
Wow. So which cancer did you have?
I had thyroid cancer and I had breast cancer.
And you had them at the same time?
No. 2007, I found out I had thyroid. I had a cousin, first cousin. She dropped dead at 28 with it. And that's when I went got tested, because I just thought, it would maybe run generic in the blood. I started having the same symptoms that she had. It would tell me no. So the tumor was growing more through the stress that I was carrying with my.
So somebody said, how did she beat the 14 years? She's not going to tell everything because she wrote a book. Just like I'm not going to show you the whole interview, because I really want you to support that content creator who did this interview.
Self-healing and whatever is causing the trauma, you have to speak about it. You have to speak out loud about it. Some people are scared to speak about it because we try to save families. We don't want to break a bond. Sometimes, like me, I was more embarrassed of myself, not for my family, what people was going to say about me. Her grandfather's a child, she a bastard, it was for me. And then I had to look outside of me and say, like, no, you going through this for somebody else. And until you start speaking, your body won't get healed. I had a lot of sickness on my body that would not heal until I went through that journey of speaking and letting go. I mean, you have to really forgive. Forgiveness is the key.
I'm telling you guys, what a strong woman. I wanted to show you this. She said, oh, we smiled because we took back everything. The lies they told, get my book now on the link. Me and my mother share the same father. She was my place in a mental hospital since she was 16, but God, things are coming around. Let's see. Her mom is, I don't know if her mom is in Atlanta. I know she's in Atlanta now. I might talk to Dr. Heavenly and see. Her mom definitely could use some dental work. And I know Dr. Heavenly does help out. I don't know what that would actually entail, but I'll talk to Dr. Heavenly and see if maybe we could work something out to help her out. But I hope that she is able to get her mother out of the institution. To be in there from the age of 16, to be able to then go to a place with your child that loves you and wants to give you a different life. I will link the full interview in the description of this video. So actually, let me do that now while we are here. Let's see. Stop screen share. And if you do watch it, you could definitely let her know Mim sent me. Let's see. I support other content creators. Let's see. Full interview. Okay, so I have linked it in the description of this video for anybody. Definitely let her know Mim sent you, or make it make sense since you. People don't know me as Mim, so that's saved. Let's get through some of these super chats. Jog Rubeck says, "Don't stop smiling. Your smiles make me smile every single time. I think that's part of your brand." Thanks. The people are telling me stop smiling. Sometimes it looks like I'm smiling, but I'm not. It's just my face. Necklace says, "I was accused of being a bitch when I was in an abusive relationship. I was just guarded, so he didn't accuse me of anything while in public." You never really know what the next person's going through. Negla, thanks for gifting 5 memberships. And also, Negla, just like with Diddy and Trump, victims get blamed. Absolutely. So, guys, I'll definitely will be back. This story wasn't something that I would typically do, but when I saw that it was like she overcame so much, I feel like her story deserves to get told. So I might actually purchase her book, and maybe in the next giveaway, I'll give away a couple copies of her book so that, you know, if you have questions of how she overcame not eating for 14 years, it'll be detailed there. Anyway, I got to run. See you guys tomorrow. Like the video on your way out. I didn't even see how many likes we had. Let's see. We don't even have 1,000 likes. Definitely hit that like button, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.